So the other day while I was rewatching Empire Strikes Back, I noticed just how much that movie centers around the bridge of the Executor and other Imperial-Class Star Destroyers, so I figured we could take a look at exactly how the bridge of Imperial Star Destroyers are laid out, because it's pretty universal. I'm Colin, and this is Sci-Fi Deep Dive. Remember, if you enjoyed this video, to head down below and hit that subscribe button. So before we begin, I'm going to throw a little bit of a caveat out there. A lot of these bits of information are specifically about the Executor, which is actually a Executor-class Super Star Destroyer, but it seems to be pretty universal between the Executor and other Imperial Star Destroyers built by Kuat, things like the Imperial-I and II class Star Destroyers, so I'm going to make some assumptions that all of these bridges are laid out relatively the same. After all, there are some pretty big advantages to making your bridges identical between different classes of ships. It means that crews trained on one could theoretically be transferred to the other with minimal retraining necessary to make them as efficient at operating that other vessel. So let's start with what a lot of people are thinking of when you think of the bridge of a Star Destroyer. That big room with those floor-to-ceiling windows, it's sort of arced in a curved formation, with the walkway down the middle of it. This serves as sort of the nerve center of the vessel. From here, commanding officers can survey the space around the vessel and make command decisions. That walkway in the middle is known as the command walkway, and from there, not only can the commanding officer survey space around the vessel through the large windows, but they can also survey the consoles of the bridge officers working below them in the two pits. These pits contain the consoles for controlling various systems around the Star Destroyer. These are mostly navigation and engineering systems, however, with the combat systems being located on either side of this space. On each side of this large sort of central space of the Imperial Star Destroyer's bridge are these little nooks with windows that look out to the side. The nook on the port side of the vessel is specifically allocated for defense. That's where you control things like shields and point defense cannons if your Star Destroyer happens to have those. Meanwhile, the console on the opposite side of the bridge, on the nook on the starboard side, is focused on offensive weapons. So these would be your ship's turbo lasers and other offensive capabilities of the Star Destroyer. Immediately behind that is the security foyer, which is through those big doors at the back of the bridge. Now, the security foyer, the name is a little bit misleading. I believe the security foyer is actually named that because it's sort of a security access point to get onto the bridge. You have to go through it to get onto the bridge, but it actually doesn't hold that many pieces of security equipment. In fact, the security foyer seems to be more centered around communications. There are two consoles in this area that are specifically designated as communications consoles. However, they do likely communicate with other parts of the ship, making them crucial in the event of the vessel being boarded, for example. Opposite of those two consoles is a hollow pad that can be used by officers to communicate with other vessels, or with Coruscant or whoever, directly from the bridge. It's worth noting that some variants of Imperial-class Star Destroyers seem to also have a large holotable in the middle of this space. We see this a lot in Star Wars Rebels, and this holotable would almost serve as a central, war room for planning and carrying out these assaults, which, interestingly, this is likely a holdover from the Venator-class Star Destroyer because this design feature was very present on the Venators that we see during the Clone Wars. But, like on the Venator, immediately behind the security foyer, you have doors that would lead to the rest of the vessel. Now, there's one other thing in the security foyer that I think is worth mentioning. There is a direct turbolift that would lead to officers' quarters, making it easy for bridge crew to make their way to the bridge in the event of an emergency, or for the commanding officer to be on deck as soon as possible. Something we actually see on real-world ships all the time. You want to sort of bunk your bridge crew and your navigation officers as close to the bridge as possible so they could easily get to their command center in the event of an emergency. Now, I'd like to stress again that this does fluctuate a bit between these ships. Like I said, we see those holotables in the middle of this space on Imperial-class Star Destroyers in Rebels, and we don't seem to see them in that same place in The Empire Strikes Back. And I sort of attribute this to the differences between the Imperial-I and Imperial-II class Star Destroyers, but overall, they seem to generally share the same bridge layout, which, once again, is beneficial because it allows crews to be trained basically once and then shifted between vessels. And all of this is really possible because all of these vessels are more or less made by the same manufacturer, Kuat Drive Yards, the company that built the Venators during the Clone Wars, and will go on to build the Imperial-class Star Destroyers during the reign of the Empire. If you'd like to learn about the history of Kuat Drive Yards, I'll leave a link in the upper right-hand corner to a video I have on that. And down in the comments, I'd like you to tell me, I have a question. Are you guys interested in seeing some videos that are about real-world spaceflight? Outside of science fiction, one of my big passions is actual spaceflight, from the dramatic achievements of the space race to things going on right now in the world of human space exploration. If you'd like to see some videos that sort of dive into some of those topics, let me know down below, or would you prefer things stay strictly science fiction? And if you have anything else you'd like to see me cover in Star Wars or anywhere else in science fiction, you can let me know down below in the comments. Last but not least, if you enjoyed this video, head down below, hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the bell icon so you get notified when I upload new videos. So for Sci-Fi Deep Dive, I'm Colin, and I will see you next time.